in the town of Isleton. Now, this is northeast of Antioch, and we know that the shaking was felt around Antioch, also Pittsburgh, and we have a couple things coming into our newsroom right now. Reports from BART that currently all trains have been stopped while they conduct mandatory track inspections to see if there's any damage. We are also working to see if there are any more reports of damage in the area, but right now what we're learning is that there was a heavy shake being felt around the area of Antioch, also Concord, and some people living south of Sacramento. Many of you got an alert on your phone around 9:30 this morning. I know I did as well about this earthquake. And interestingly, Drew, yesterday was the anniversary of the Loma Prieta earthquake, and then tomorrow is the International Shakeout Day, where we know that there will be earthquake drills around the country. So interesting that this is falling right in between the two, but a pretty hefty size here at a 4.1 magnitude quake.
Yeah, Jobina, I think many more people got the alert to their phone than actually felt the quake. Part of the reason why the magnitude was a 4.1, so that is a pretty decent shaking. But the other thing we look at, if we can take my computer's max 1, is the depth of the earthquake. This earthquake was pretty deep. The USGS is estimating that this earthquake was 7 miles when it comes to the depth. Here, I'll just move this up a little bit so you can see that what the USGS is reporting. This earthquake was 7 miles beneath the surface. So that is a very deep earthquake. When you have earthquakes that get around 1, 2, 3 miles in depth, that is when we can feel that in a more broader sense. But the USGS will flip it on over to who felt this. And here's the shaking intensity. You can see the red dot near Rio Vista. That is where the magnitude 4.1 quake was felt right around 9:30 this morning. But if we zoom in just a little bit on this map, you can see the area that felt the shaking the most was the East Bay. And you can see on our color-coded map, most of the shaking that folks reported to the USGS was on the weak side. But folks in Pittsburgh certainly felt it. Martinez, Concord, Orinda, Berkeley, Moraga, even parts of Emeryville felt it. And if we just back out just a little bit further from this map, there were areas outside of the East Bay that felt it. We had a couple of reports in the city, mainly in Soma, and also across parts of the peninsula as well. So once again, we go back to our map, our earthquake intensity. You can see it was a 4.1 that occurred just shortly before 9:30 this morning, but you do want to take into account the depth of an earthquake. When an earthquake is that deep, meaning 7 miles below the surface, that is why it wasn't felt across a broad portion of the area. But we always look at magnitude, and when you look at the earthquake magnitude map, when they start getting above a 3 and into the 4 category, that is light and moderate shaking across the region. I was just going back into our records, and the last time we felt a quake close to this magnitude was way back in April. It was a magnitude 3.7, and that one was in a very similar spot. That was also pretty close to Antioch. So it has been quite some time since we have felt shaking, but that earthquake also was in a more shallow category. It was felt about 3 miles below the surface, and that's why a lot more folks felt it. So again, if you got an alert to your phone this morning, I think a lot of us saw our phone, saw the message to drop, cover, and hold on, which is exactly what you should do when it comes to an earthquake. I think a lot of us got that to our phone, but we see that this magnitude 4.1 was pretty deep when it comes to 7 miles down. But again, it was centered outside, just outside of Rio Vista, just a couple miles. That's where the epicenter was. That is what the USGS is saying to us with this 4.1 magnitude quake. And again, if you're just joining us, we're just giving you the latest on who felt this magnitude 4.1. You probably got that alert to your phone right around 9:30 this morning, telling you to drop, cover, and hold on. And again, these are the reports we're getting. These are users who logged on to the USGS website, filled out the form telling them their location and exactly what they felt. They can take it from anywhere from a weak shaking to a violent shaking. But for the most part, we're seeing that most of the reports, which is exactly what our newsroom is hearing too from people calling in, it was felt in the East Bay, Jobina. And for the most part, you see on our color-coded list, it was mainly on the weak side. You may have felt a shaking for a second, thinking, is that an earthquake? And it was indeed, and a lot of people felt it from Concord to Martinez, Pittsburgh, Orinda, Moraga, Danville, San Ramon, even parts of the East Bay shoreline felt this one as well. So again, I think a lot more people got the alert to their phone than felt the shaking, but that's what the MyShake or the Shakeler app is supposed to do. When we get these stronger magnitude earthquakes, usually above a 4, they want you alerted and know that it is coming. And it was centered again just outside of Rio Vista, Jobina, and that was a magnitude 4.1, depth of 7 miles. And that depth, again, we want to talk about that as well. It's not just the magnitude, because I think a lot of people are familiar with the magnitude scale, and usually when it gets above a 3.5, that's when we start feeling that shaking across a broader region. But it's also how deep was the earthquake, and this was a pretty deep one, down to 7 miles, and that's why it was felt in a very localized area, mainly folks close to the epicenter near the East Bay, certainly around Antioch, Pittsburgh, Bay Point, those areas, Jovina.
All right, thank you, Drew. So I'm just going to give the highlights, everyone, very quickly here. 4.1 magnitude earthquake. You heard Drew say right outside of Rio Vista. It's in the town of Isleton, so very small community there. It's about a little northeast of Antioch, and the shaking was felt in Antioch, also in Bay Point. We're learning also was felt in Concord, and now BART is running trains at slower speed, so you can expect about 20-minute delays right now for BART, because they did have to stop all those trains to conduct the track inspections in that area. Looks like there's no damage, which is very good news here. And of course, you can get the very latest news anytime with the ABC 7 News app, and you can join us with all the latest developments on Midday Live that starts at 11 a.m. And we are going to send you back now to Live with Kelly and Mark. Thank you.